All right, welcome back. Moving on step by step as we go through a slow restoration of our 41 GMC here. Like I said, one part at a time. What we have been doing is we got it on the road. We've been enjoying it, but coming back and finishing, parts one at a time. So obviously you can see the headers are back on there. The exhaust is in. We lost some video footage, so we apologize about that, going through the process of how to best prep an exhaust as well as headers when you're going to be painting them. Naturally, most know that you can't use your ordinary auto paint, but you've got to use a high temp paint so that it's going to withstand heats of above 500 degrees. Otherwise, your paint's just going to chip off and it's just going to be a waste of time. So make sure you're doing your right prep, using the right paint, especially if you can find not the acrylic paints, but I'm losing my words again, but your porcelain paints, and it'll look great and it'll withstand the heat that's firing out from your headers. But anyhow, next step here, we're just going to, eventually we're going to replace that water pump, but it's working. So we want it to look great. When we pull that, we're going to keep the pump, we're going to restore it, we're going to take it apart, put a new seal into it, make sure the fins are still great. But right now we are just going to take off the front wheel, and we're just going to clean it. We're going to powder coat it. We're going to get that painted black and looking nice. You can see even the hose going into our coolant, into our radiator. Eventually we're going to pull that off and probably maybe use stainless steel, use something that looks really nice. Again, affordable adjustments to make it look pretty. Make it look sharp when you're driving around and still run great. So as you can see here, we'll just go through the process of how are you going to pull off, if not the whole water pump, for right now, just the front wheel that connects your belt to your alternator, which is right there. That, like I said, we lost some footage. What we decided to do temporarily is pull that off, clean it, powder coat it, and give it a nice coat of that bronze for the meantime, until we decide that we're going to put a new alternator in there, which once again, about 60 bucks, you could get a pretty decent alternator that's going to give you what you need to run this. The top plate there is fairly easy to pull off. You just got a few bolts, you can see. We actually right there, we pulled that one off, and we're just finishing putting it back on again at this point. But we will get to that process. See, the electrical is not completely finished. So again, we're going to finish rerouting some of that. I just believe you want to keep electrical as far away from the block itself, so far away from heat. It's not going to do a ton of damage, but you're just going to dry out your lines and your insulators around your electrical lines that much faster. So anyhow, not to belabor too much more, we will work on getting to the front wheel, and we'll show you how you pull it off. It's fairly simple. You got about 4 or 5 bolts depending on the wheel that you have to get to. It's a little precarious, but we will get you to that, and we'll show you an easy method of taking it off and putting it back on again. I was mistaken. That definitely won't be the first time, but actually there's one last bolt here that I completely forgot about, that we have right on the front of your alternator protector. So again, you have one, you're gonna have 2 right here, just over the water line here that goes into your engine block, and this one here. So once again, good old trusty Duralast. Once again, thank you to Duralast and Great Products and AutoZone helping us out here on Little Mule, as we have a lot of fun just wrenching away. So again, not a whole lot of boring footage here, but we're just gonna take off this last bolt. Once again, we're probably gonna leave this on only because we don't have to take it off. Once you take this off, there's pressure that is coming from your block to your radiator, and you'll have water shooting all over the place. Not an issue, it's just gonna drain, and you can spray it off, dry it down. But if there's no need for it, no sense in doing it. That way you don't have to refill with water or fluid. But again, just be aware, if you're taking this off, expect water to not only come out of your hose, even if you clamp it off, but it's gonna be pushing out of your engine, remember, because that's where your pressure is coming from. So once again, for pros, I know it sounds like I'm talking to kindergartners, but we're doing this knowing that we're still learning and actually just putting these together for just fun and interactive. But once again, the main target, which is the youth, those that are just becoming familiar with what do I do when I get under hood. Classics are a great start. If you want to move to JDM and domestics, hypercars, obviously you better get your business rolling before you get into those. Much more complicated when you're dealing with chips and computers, but once again, good fundamentals on a project like this. So once again, let's finish this up and we'll bring you guys back in the loop. All right, working away here. Just a couple little notations that we wanted to bring to your attention is we're going to wire brush it. So one, make sure you have a clean wire brush. Know that's going to create up a lot of dust, so make sure you have a vacuum. Once again, organization. Have something prepared so you can just suck up the dust, keep it clean, wipe it down with a solvent. Before we're going to not wet sand it, we're going to sand it with a 320 grit after we do a wire brush. We'll go from there. But just a couple of things. Anytime you're working and you're not going to be replacing gaskets, be really careful. This wire brush will do some wreckage to your back of your water pump, which is this right here. If we dig in there too hard, this is probably one of the originals. It should be replaced, but it's not leaking, so it's not broken. Don't fix it at this point. But again, we're being careful and reminding you to be cautious of what you're working around so you don't wind up cracking or messing up, especially gaskets and seals that you don't want to have to replace if you don't need to. So that was just a little notation that we're going to bring up. We're also going to make sure that we're going to be careful of these threads right here. This is tight, so even when we paint this, we're not going to wind up getting any paint in there. But we're gonna clean up. Either we're going to tape off those threads, or we're going to put some Vaseline in there, so that when we do paint it, the Vaseline will come out nice and smooth and won't mess that up with those threads if this ever does need to be tightened or even undone. Another rule of thumb just to think about when you're working on different areas of your car. So that's pretty much it. Just a mental note for caution. So now after we wire brush this and realized it's a bit tight and we just wouldn't do it right and do it thorough, we took off this front wheel. It actually goes to your, this actually isn't a serpentine belt, but it's a belt that actually goes to your alternator, right? That charges your battery and runs the water pump itself. But anyhow, there's gonna be 4 bolts so that we took off the front of the actual wheel itself. This actually was a 1/2 inch wrench, so thank you Dorlast once again. Can't ever say thank you enough. One thing you want to remember, especially if it's older, is taking off the 4 bolts, it's not going to expose anything on the water pump. So just inside here, I'm going to see if I can give you a decent view. There you go. You can see this here is a plate, almost like a flywheel, I'm going to call it that. A mini flywheel that's attached to a cylinder or rod that goes into your water pump that turns it and presses water through your engine. This itself pops off, but it can be a bit tough, so just make sure that you're not too aggressive and crank or snap anything off, because on the front you have a pin that we've gotten out for the most part, but I'm going to show you as I actually was able to get it off easily. So that pin goes through that center hole, especially when you have an older car, an older engine. Once again, this is a 70 GMC V8. The flat 6 straight head or flat head was taken out, I believe, in the late 60s and sat for a while, and then about the 70s they dropped in this Chevy V8, and that's what we're working with today. But once again, it was on there good, so you just have to kind of massage it a little bit. Tap, tap, tap. Keep in mind that you just have rust and corrosion and oxidation that wants to, as you can see all right in there, wants to case it in. So anyhow, it'll be easier for us to wire and sand this. It'll be a cleaner paint and tape off. And it'll give us a chance actually to clean this up. And we'll have this actually a black, so it's kind of be black on gun silver. And we'll have the black down bottom there also. So I just wanted to show you that again. Just be cautious, be careful, be mindful. And once again, where am I gonna put this? Nope, I'm not gonna leave that there with the bolts down here. We're gonna use our table to keep it organized. We're gonna keep the bolts handy and together. That way we're teaching the kids that we're working on with this project to keep things in line, have a system, and it's great tools and just a sense of organization and even management in life. Once again, with Wrenched, Auto Owners of America, we're excited to continue just to grow the need, both to expose the need to keep American iron on the road, but really to use it as a tool once again for the youth and for families that want to learn, are looking to get into the industry, or just have a disenfranchised youth, man, say that 10 times, disenfranchised youth that we need to care for, we need to reach out to, and this is one opportunity that we can provide for them. So once again, Wrenched, like us, follow us, thank us, and we're gonna make sure that if anyone wants to get involved, this is completely for nonprofit, so anyone that's interested, please reach out to us and we'll get you connected. Connect at autoownersofamerica.com. In the meantime, let's get going. We'll finish up cleaning this up, taping it off, and the next shot would be hopefully us putting a powder coat prime on there and get this started look a bit prettier than the history you can just imagine what's behind all that wear, no tear, but rust and rime. We're just gonna paint it up a little bit and start some more. So once again, if you can see, not sure if you can quite see in the sun, you'll see all this rust residue. Can you see that? There you go, you can see it. So be mindful, especially if you're new under the hood. Anytime you're creating, whether it's dust in the air, it's windy, make sure you're in an enclosed area, but make sure that your carburetor isn't wide open and your valve cover is not off. But basically anywhere that could get into an area that shouldn't receive corrosion, and definitely into your engine block, your valve, make sure that is shut, cleared, and locked down. You'll create a huge mess and expensive problem for yourself in the future if you're rushing. So once again, take your time, plan it out. More time on prep will result in a great finished product, whether you're installing a part, gas pump, or you're wired sanding down a water pump, pardon me there. Just take your time, do it right, and you don't have to do it once. All right, as we continue, once again, keep just a nice, about 16 inches away. Let your powder of your paint cover your product. You don't need to dip this. You'll end up getting runs, and not even runs, but it'll just be too thick. It can't dry based on how this paint is designed. So once again, on this as well, good old Rust-Oleum, simple, that we'll use to prime this and set it. So this is something that will last. But once again, when you're painting, whether you're using professional products, this is a great quality products for your kind of do it at home, do it yourself, you're on a budget. But regardless, you want to make sure your prep is right. So when you're prepping something right, you want to make sure that you're personally wire brushing it, giving a good sand, taking off any oxidation and or oils, making sure it's able to grab a good primer, making sure you set on the primer right, which is a few really light coats, proper dry time in between, usually 2 to 5 minutes, and then going to your multiple finish coats. But again, prep, if you put an extra 20 minutes in the prep, your finished product will look much better and it'll last a lifetime. So don't rush, take your time, enjoy the back in the corner once again. This is our front, I keep wanting to call it a flywheel. This is not a fly. This is just our front wheel on the very front of your water pump. Whether you have a 41 GMC or rolling out in a Pontiac, you've got this. So once again, we're just doing a little bit of just cosmetic, just some aesthetic cleanups, while Ryan and some of the other teams are working on the electrical and getting Little Mule fired back up again on the road. We figured let's polish it up. It was, this truck has been worked. It's a workhorse, but it's in great condition. The engine is strong. It's just gritty. So we just want to clean up a little again. Once again, what I'm going to use for this is actually another Rust-Oleum product. It's a good acrylic tune primer. We still prime regardless. My suggestion is even when something says paint and primer, still use a primer. Just make sure the primer you're using is of the same composition as the actual finish coats that you're going to use. So if you're using acrylic, stick with acrylic primer. So that's pretty much it. But once again, this isn't rocket science. I'm staying away from it. As you can see, I'm not up close. You're gonna get just a mess. So 2-part, you won't get any runs. You'll get some nice light coats on it, and it'll be able to dry properly. The thicker, now I'm gonna mention something. You could hear that this spray can is starting to spurt. So for one, it's still got some in there, but when it does, you wanna be careful because it starts spraying out miscellaneous little spots like that, and that'll kind of create a mess on whatever you're spraying. So make sure you shake it up there again. There you go. It just needed a little bit of movement to mix up what's inside. That way we can get it nice and light and spread out. So that's pretty much it. We're gonna wrap this up and we'll come back and show you as we put a second coat on, and eventually we'll get this back on the front of our water pump and see how pretty it looks. All right, thanks again. We'll see you in a second. Definitely not beautiful, but for those of you that catch some of the videos for Little Mule here that we should have launched in about a couple of weeks now, just showing a slow restoration of this 41 GMC. Definitely not perfect, but looking beautiful compared to how we pulled it out of the desert. Incredible small block 350 in there was just looked like someone puked on it, but it just needed some TLC, some scrubbing, some tuning, a little bit of rebuilding of the carburetor, and actually got this looking fantastic. Once again, our daily driver, just to live out the culture, wanted to keep some of this American iron on the road running running on a daily basis. No reason why we can't. Once again, let's have some fun and look forward to sharing much more with everyone out there. Once again, Jason here and the team from Auto Owners.